Suspected fraud at Banco Master, estimated at 12 billion reais. Federal police arrested Daniel Vorcaro, owner of Banco Master.
And two people complained about this Supreme Court crisis involving two justices of the court. And how is this going to affect the military, who will be tried by the Superior Military Court and could lose their ranks?
Justice Cristiano Zanin referred to an Israeli company that was allegedly spying on Supreme Court justices. Its name is Blackwall Global, which is supposedly an Israeli company. Then, another justice, Alexandre de Moraes, said that this would be the Mossad.
Mossad de Israel, vida no quartel. Justice Alexandre de Moraes' statement that the Israeli Mossad would be investigating the connections between Banco Master and Brazilian authorities brought up a delicate and explosive debate. The involvement of one of the most efficient intelligence agencies in the world completely changes the course of the investigations and puts even more pressure on the federal Supreme Court. Since a faction of the armed forces sees this investigation as an opportunity to hold justices who are allegedly involved in the Master case accountable. The involvement of Mossad in this scenario profoundly changes the dynamics of the investigations, expanding the reach of information and giving greater credibility to the inquiries. Among some high-ranking military officers, there is a growing perception that the convictions imposed on generals for the events of January 8 had a political bias, which reinforces the expectation that the Supreme Court will make a decision capable of excluding and punishing justices who may be involved in the Master case. In this video, we will delve into the capabilities of Mossad and understand how this Israeli agency can provide support. The federal police in the investigations of the Master case and dismantling this web that shook Brazil. Welcome to Vida no Quartel.
My friends, the pieces on the board have just moved in an extremely dangerous way in Brasilia. Pay attention here. History teaches us that major ruptures never happen in broad daylight. They are plotted in the shadows, behind closed doors, out of the public eye.
The conviction of generals for the events of January 8th, combined with the possibility of them being excluded from the armed forces and losing their ranks, has stirred military circles in Brazil. However, the mention of names like Dias Toffoli and Alexandre de Moraes in investigations linked to Banco Master further intensifies the clash between the judiciary and the military. For some military personnel, the continued presence of justices under suspicion occupying a seat on the Supreme Court undermines the legitimacy of the decisions handed down by the federal Supreme Court.
The defendant invoked his constitutional right to remain silent. He will only answer questions from his defense. The reporting judge, for the record, will ask the questions in sequence only for the record.
With high-ranking military officers convicted and imprisoned, and Supreme Court justices involved in scandals without even being removed from office, this opens the door to a major crisis in which the balance of powers may be put to the test. The involvement of a foreign agency like Mossad, combined with military expectations, creates an atmosphere of uncertainty, which could redefine the relationship between the armed forces and the judiciary in Brazil, with consequences for national political stability that are still unpredictable. Although the current Brazilian government has made it clear that it is not an ally of the State of Israel, some national security institutions, such as the federal police, have always maintained good relations with Mossad. This cooperation has already been evident in several investigations involving mutual assistance, revealing the importance of information exchange and international collaboration in the fight against organized crime and corruption networks. The Israeli Mossad is internationally recognized for its exceptional investigative capabilities, supported by advanced technologies developed based on the needs of its agents. The agency has expertise in tracking data from cell phones, computers, internet logins, and geolocation information, which allows it to map complex connections and uncover hidden structures. This ability to penetrate systems and collect strategic information makes Mossad a powerful ally for law enforcement agencies in other countries. Besides technology, Mossad stands out for its ability to undermine structures from the inside out, using psychological warfare, co-opting people, and infiltrating power networks. This approach not only dismantles criminal organizations, but also weakens institutions that may be compromised, creating internal cracks that accelerate the dismantling process.
Say the people should go into the Supreme Federal Court, grab Alexander de Moraes by his collar, shake his egg-shaped head, and throw him into a trash can. It's also intolerable for someone to throw tomatoes at ministers or to spray graffiti as an excuse.
A report from the newspaper O Globo revealed messages that the owner of Banco Master, Daniel Vorcaro, sent to Supreme Court Justice Alexandre de Moraes on the day the banker was arrested for the first time in November of last year. The messages obtained by journalist Malu Gaspar show that the banker talked with Moraes about the attempt to sell Banco Master, and they indicate that Vorcaro had access to the confidential investigation opened against him in the Federal Court of Brasilia.
At the end of the afternoon, at 5:22 p.m., Vorcaro sent a new message to Moraes, again using the notepad and then sending a view once screenshot.
The constant collaboration of Mossad with other intelligence agencies and police forces around the world is highly impactful. This network of cooperation expands the reach of operations and strengthens the credibility of investigations. In the case of Banco Master, the participation of Mossad can be decisive in revealing hidden ramifications and providing technical and strategic support to Brazilian police authorities, raising the level of investigations to a global standard. And for you, who enjoy the videos from Vida No Quartel, take the opportunity to purchase one of our courses and help us continue producing our daily videos. In our course, Current Conflicts, Efficient Preparation, you will learn how to prepare in a practical and strategic way for hostile events. In our private analysis of the Strategic Voter 2026, you will have access to exclusive content that reveals how the political game unfolds in Brazil, helping you interpret power moves and become a more prepared voter for the upcoming elections. Support the Vida No Quartel initiatives and purchase one of our products. Your support really helps the channel. The links will be in the description and in the pinned comment. Many believe that the Banco Master case still holds undisclosed secrets, since it's unlikely that only Daniel Vorcaro was the mastermind behind such a complex scheme. The way this scheme managed to intertwine with high-ranking authorities and involve branches of government indicates that there are deeper ramifications. The financial impact didn't just affect the investors who entrusted their resources to Master, but also shook the credibility of the Brazilian financial system, reinforcing the perception that there is still much to be uncovered. In this context, pressure is mounting from a military faction for Supreme Court justices involved to be removed and put on trial. For the military, the principle of equality needs to be respected, since generals were convicted for the events of January 8th without even being present at the protest sites. Now, these officers face the possibility of losing their ranks after more than 4 decades of service, which intensifies the feeling of injustice and fuels demands for accountability of judicial authorities who may be involved in criminal schemes. The involvement of Mossad in the Banco Master investigations adds an even more delicate layer to this situation. The Israeli agency may reveal surprising connections involving senior government officials and more cases related to the ministers already mentioned in the investigations. Among what has already been uncovered are trips on jets linked to the bank and multi-million-dollar contracts involving a law firm associated with a minister's family, and even exchanges of messages between Vorcaro and authorities before the arrest. These elements could trigger a major institutional crisis if the ministers involved are not, at the very least, put on trial. But will the armed forces put even more pressure? Leave your opinion here in the comments and tell us if you really believe that, this time, we will have a justice of the Federal Supreme Court being put on trial.
Diaz Toffoli stepping down as the case's rapporteur did not ease tensions within the Supreme Court, and now the other ministers suspect they were recorded. In this meeting that lasted more than 3 hours, held yesterday to discuss the situation of the now former rapporteur who left the case halfway, revelations about his relationship with Daniel Vorcaro, the owner of the bank under investigation.
The link to support Vida No Cartel and purchase our course or private analysis will be in the description and in the pinned comment. Here at Vida No Cartel, you stay up to date with everything happening in the military world. Leave your like, subscribe, and watch one of the videos appearing on your screen. Forward fighters, see you next time.